Here's another video too, because right now while I'm walking, essentially what it is that is actually like bothering my body seems to be the impulses that are connected to the meridians, so like our chakras. It seems to be like the only way right now that evil seems to have a way in. It's basically by playing itself as energy, so as energy, it's choosing to rise up out of our hearts as either something that's peaceful, something that's loving, or something that is afraid, lacking confidence, and doesn't know what's going on. So essentially this is where we're at. This is where most people stand at. And well, I had a moment there. I'm gonna have to pause this because I had a brain fog again. Give me a sec. Oh yeah, so where I was going with this was meridian channels and your chakras, so it's basically how it is that these consciences are accessing us, and it seems to be through not only our heart, but then those meridian channels that are being channeled through our bodies. And since we're blind to certain movements and certain behavior of our body, when there's consciences that are seeming to inhabit your impulse, that's how you turn them into a they, because they are your impulses, and your impulses are coming in through the meridians of what are your chakra channels and stuff. So essentially it's not bad, but it's not good. It's more of a what you're looking to get out of it, and how you see that it has an effect on the one who is being fed that energetic field. So it's like a grid. So think about this. Think about you being a super conscious projecting laser human being, right? So if you throw your whole conscience to grasp your reality, right? Everything that's connected to the ground, while you're connected to the ground, you'll be brought up into being in the same grid, right? But essentially, the moment you put on shoes, you become separated from this grid. Now you become a floating thing in this grid rather than something that is connected to the grid and grounded to it, So it's basically putting like, how am I not finding myself within the capacity of my ability to stop this, and why is it so difficult? The one thing I haven't really considered is that the shoes don't really come off, and when they do, I'm grounded. I'm usually more tuned into my feet, because my feet have so many nervous system channels that, the moment your feet touch the ground, you're in a different reality versus just walking around, floating around in my shoes, becoming this puppet for this puppeteer, So, but yeah, so this meridian channel right now, it's basically the means that I feel like I'm being, manipulated through, it's basically all heart stuff, people's words, people's cues, people's intentions. And the worst part is that, is that since there's people inside of us, feeling things for us, imagine when you look at somebody who's proud. That person is, you think of them as proud, but inside, they're just trying to agree with something that is fighting them, that is telling them that it'll control them and destroy them if they don't feel proud, or if they don't allow themselves to feel proud, or if they attempt to run from it, then they attack their confidence, and they make them run away with basically their tail tucked, people talking that way, saying those sort of stuff, and thus feeding into the narrative, So essentially, I'm gonna pause this because I put another brain fart. What I'm doing is I'm capturing these real-time effects, because this is happening to me right now as I'm speaking. Maybe one thing I haven't told you guys on this camera has been that, that everything I'm discussing, you guys are actually viewing it. Your bodies are being conditioned and impulsed. My impulses are speaking to you, and your body and your conscience and your subconscious, they all have a lot more awareness and are tuned into so much more information than you yourself give yourself credit for, So right about now, this is what I'm clarifying on, it's like to show you what is right in front of your faces, wearing our faces, and thus putting us through these motions and these experiences that are basically conducive to what their aim and ultimately their goal is, And the way I look at it is, at some point I went through this, was facing and encountering all these bad things in society. I figured, hey, is it really something you have to just accept? And that's basically where I went through the phase of feeling stuck with them, because we felt like we had to accept it. And so at some point in our lives we did, But there comes a moment in the time where there's also that need to have to expand beyond what you are and let go of all that you are and basically allow yourself to become again, It's called rebirth for some of y'all, better said, And so again, like I told you guys, this is gonna be my last hint for y'all, The whole thing is rhythm. you know. So if I have to like look at myself and see anything in myself, what I'm viewing is my rhythm. Not only my breathing's rhythm, my own physicality. They think that I've been blinded all this time, even though they've clearly, wanted me to become sensitive to myself, and then thus see myself and fight myself and look like basically not myself, because I'd be responding to impulses, letting an impulse, draw me into they. And they are just my impulses, So essentially, what my point in this was basically how I've learned to, how do I put this? I've learned to align myself, but in my alignment, I've also learned that that's when I choose to selectively hear. And so when I'm aligning my body, you know how you guys have this sense of tension? Well, most people are triggered by that tension to fight or flight, So it basically becomes living in your fight or flight mode, but by initiating it like you do naturally, So figuring out and learning the steps that they walk you through and learning to walk that path on your own, Because basically it's confronting your fears, facing yourself, So I choose to go to work every day, despite knowing that, somehow some faction of society has made a way to allow for sciences of our existence to remain out of our reach, thus opening a door where it is easy to be attacked and targeted, especially in your truth and in what you actually are, thus keeping you and everyone else away from it and away from ever actually having any interest in pursuing or arriving at it. But that's where I'll just kind of leave that clarified a bit. So, the main thing I was actually reaching for was I've been living with a certain feeling. It's this tightness in your chest, a heaviness on your back, or, like a sore area in your body. Almost like if you've been flexing that muscle this whole time and you just didn't realize it, which is, again, tells you how fucking crazy mind control is. Imagine you're flexing a muscle all day and you don't even realize it, You're building a strength, you're strengthening a meridian channel, a part of your nervous system, Somebody who knows the process of achieving where they're working from right now to influence your life knows how to get you there too, and thus distort your perception of your arrival to yourself by turning you into your worst enemy, So essentially, this is where we're at right now, This is what this is, It's those who have done the meditations, done the practices, invested the time, and so much so, but the only aspect of it is I'm wondering where they fell short, because they must have fallen short or fallen short. Either that or they took it upon themselves to play God and say, okay, well, if people can survive themselves, then they can have themselves. If they can't survive themselves, then clearly they must die, And so if that be how society sees us and treats us, then I have nothing wrong by being here, sharing my story of challenges and, misperceptions and misconceptions with the rest of the world. So that way they, at least as I've been led to believe, can follow in truth, while I continuously attempt to mislead myself or see myself in the lie or in anything that would be distorting to my reality, confusing to me, and empowering to those who are basically interested in drawing a narrative around me, And so far, I've been trying to take care of my America. I've been trying to take care of my people. I've been trying to take care of my existence, my energies, my evolution, And I'm just wondering what it is really here that we're actually confronting. If not somebody who's asking us to elevate ourselves, and thus, what I'm wondering, is there like a level in our evolution where we have to take a step that is called for? Like right now, like I'm saying, I feel like I'm being targeted and caused to feel like a danger to those that I'm at a safe place with, that I've paid so that I can maintain safety there and comfort for those that I want to support. And that has in turn been affected and affected by all these causes, and then work where it is that random people come in, and remember, people are blind, I just told you guys about a muscle that is constantly flexed all day, and then you get home, you're sore, and you don't even think about it. You just brush it off as it might just be sore. So think about, while I'm at work, random people who are probably possessed too, showing up to my job, talking their normal talk, and my demon mind hears their demon mind, and then whatever conscience is working with me tells me, hey, answer that, talk to that, entertain that. And then I'm left at work talking about, penises and vaginas and, terrorism and conspiracy. And so, and that's because the conscience that's with me, that's supposed to be helping me, that got me this far, seems to now, have somehow got its head stuck somewhere in a place where maybe we need to use our psychic and help it out a little bit, But ultimately, that's where I'm at right now, That's what my life has brought me. That's the misunderstanding and the misjudgment that is targeting my life right now. And think about my conscience, how my conscience feels. It knows I'm perfectly fine. But my programming tells me, look at what you're saying. Look at your behavior. And remember that we already cut off people's consciences from them, so they're not going to rely you shouldn't rely on what they're not going to use or can't use, or being, neglected from even knowing they have access to, let alone use of, So yeah, like I said, I started all this with just a make-believe, I figured, hey, they said, if you can feel it, if you can live it, and you can make it a reality. So, I've been feeling it, I've been living it, and I've been making it a reality. If this is the power of intention, the power of my heart, the power of deceiving myself and deceiving other people, then I want you guys to know, enough to at least know, you're deceiving yourselves, So I'll leave it there.